What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today I have another comment that we're going to be looking into based on, a few things regarding Gotham Knights. My last few videos have been talking about the combat system for Gotham Knights, how I think it's on par with games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Spider-Man, especially when both games were heavily celebrated and their combat had elements or shared elements that people did not criticize in those games but are criticizing in Gotham Knights. Now, in regard to this conversation, I've also received other comments, and I know some people might say, why do you constantly make these videos? The truth of the matter is these are the videos I want to make, number one, and number two, I make videos for you guys. So your comments are actually very important, and this is how we actually have conversations. I'm not in pursuit of a mainstream audience. I don't care about the views. If I want views, I have my main channel that can rake in that kind of stuff. I want to have these conversations because I feel like it's necessary. Because when we see the next superhero game, I'd like for us to maintain all the energy that we have with Gotham Knights and be able to stay consistent, or at least maybe approach everything from a side of saying this is our preference or not. It's funny how you only respond to specific criticism that people bring up about Gotham Knights. You are correct. I respond to the combat ones because I feel like for the most part, a lot of people's opinions on the combat have been based on preference, but they've masked it with, oh, I don't like the combat because of this one thing, when in reality, they like other combat systems with exactly the same thing. That's why I thought that was hypocritical, and I've basically extensively showcased as much as I, at this point want to anyways, how for most part, it's just a matter of preference. And many of them have admitted, some of them said, I don't care if the combat is this, it's just not fun to me. That's perfectly fine. There are games you should probably like or other people like that are probably not going to be fun for us. Continuation, they said, also, if a lot of people thought it was an April Fool's joke, basically this video, that should tell you how people feel about comparing the two. Spider-Man did not rely hard on its RPG aspects and instead leaned into what made the character great. Again, Marvel Spider-Man is not an RPG. I think this is another really good, interesting thing because I know that sometimes it could be conflated, but I wanted to make sure that we're very careful on how we're actually, categorizing both of them in a sense. And Gotham Knights does rely on its RPG because it is an RPG. So it will be a crime if Gotham Knights did not rely heavily on its RPG aspects. Now, guess what's going to happen very soon? Some of you are probably reading the comment before I get ahead, but you'll see. I've seen you respond a little to these kinds of comments, but it says a lot that you won't respond to them in a video. Hey, I was going through the combat stuff, so now I'm ready for this stealth conversation. So here we are. I'm responding to yours, so don't accuse me of that afterwards, okay? Thanks. Say what you will about the Arkham games, and there it is, the Arkham games. This was the same thing that we had to go through about almost every single criticism is there is a deep down love for Arkham that allows for our rose-colored or rose-tinted glasses to see Gotham Knights through those lenses. I mean, at some point, you got to say, well, yeah, I can see reason. And actually, this is one of those comments where I can actually see reason. And we'll go through everything. And they said, what did it say? It says, say what you will about the Arkham games, but everything in the game made you feel like Batman. Exactly. You're not playing as Batman in Gotham Knights, number one, but whatever. Old me might know, but it's true. When I and many others played it, it didn't feel like the Bat family. It just felt like another generic dumbed-down RPG. I don't understand how the stealth mechanics and the RPG have anything to do with one another, but if you're saying that the stealth mechanics in Gotham Knights feel like another RPG that you've played which had stealth mechanics, I guess it's a textbook stealth game, maybe. You also never mentioned how stealth, a fundamental part of the Bat family, was completely gutted. Now, this is very subjective, a fundamental part of the Bat family. Many of you got to play as Red Hood in the Arkham games. Now, you could play with him as stealth or you could go in guns blazing however you wanted to go, but that's an interpretation from one video game and specific sides of the comment. If we open up the comic books and start looking, this claim that stealth is a fundamental part of the Bat family will probably be shaken by just the massive body of work that's out there representing the Bat family in different lights. So I don't know, maybe we should chalk this up and say, that's questionable, that's arguable, depending on what you're looking at. So he says, this game will always be a massive step down from what came before it and what will come after it's long forgotten. Now, this is also another thing that I've been talking about all this while. It won't get DLC because even the company that made it does not care about it. How do you know? Have you spoken to the developers? Do you know how much time and effort and years of their lives they spent on this game? That's a big, huge conclusion that you're making because this isn't a game like Spider-Man, Arkham games, or the upcoming Wolverine game. You haven't played the upcoming Wolverine game. Wow. The difference between these games and Gotham Knights is that they were made because the people making them love these characters, and it shows. Gotham Knights was just a product, even to its own makers, and that's all it will ever be. Again, everyone is free to like and enjoy the game. I understand. So I responded. And I said, I'm glad you mentioned this. I have a video ready. I actually made a video about some of the stealth elements to kind of like debate the fallacies that reviewers actually made about the stealth in Gotham Knights. Many of them said a bunch of hocus pocus lies. I did some recording and capture for the video, but I was like, well, I'm not going to deal with these fools anyways. But you guys are audience members, so we got to kind of talk about things. And I have respect for you guys that comment on my channel. And it's just what it is. But those guys, I have no respect for them, so there's no need to bother. So I said, here is why you feel that, how you feel playing the game is subjective. Now I said, Arkham's stealth mechanics, let me break it down for you. Let me tell you why you like Arkham's mechanic. Because everybody wants to talk about the Arkham games like I don't know the Arkham games. So I said, number one, the developers leverage soundtracks to heighten your experience. After you take down each enemy, the music intensifies and makes the stake feel higher. It's a smart design choice. Don't expect a new team to be that detailed. The experience of Gotham Knights teams shows in areas like these. You see, the Arkham games had enough time, iterations upon iterations upon iterations, to be able to nail this stuff down. Plus, they didn't have to make a massive game. They didn't have to make a cross-generation game. They could just focus on the things that they wanted to do, and they were able to execute it very well. Yes, there's a talent and ingenuity behind that, but again, this is a different team from the one that made Gotham Knights. Also, number two, camera angles for ledge takedowns makes it feel like you were a third party rather than a third person. I'll show you guys an example here. When you're doing a takedown for any character from a ledge or something like that, the camera angles changed. It really did make the takedown look pretty good. And so you felt like, oh my gosh, he's about to, knock this guy out. So there were just little things that were done from a design perspective that made you kind of feel this way. Arkham City is my favorite game, so I'll give you the goods. I'll tell you this is why you like it. This is why I like it. And then the takedown variety and AI reactions. You see, in the Arkham games, the AI was designed to respond to your tactics. From a development perspective, you have to choose one, or maybe you have to choose a little bit of both. Enemy variety or enemy intelligence. Most games will lean into one or the other. Arkham went with the intelligence side of things, while Gotham Knights goes with the variety. Gotham Knights AI is basically as silly or as smart as any AI out there in most stealth games. You can't argue that. Like, you've played Assassin's Creed, you've done stealth. They don't really have a lot of sense. You see a guy that's like taken down, they're like, huh? Why is he dead? And then they go back to patrol. That's what AI is. Now, you see it as something so simple, but you have no idea how difficult it is to make on the back end. But you have also enjoyed this generic AI stealth thing in other games, so you call Gotham Knights a generic version. I hope you're maintaining the same energy for those games as well, because I understand that Arkham actually has a better stealth system because it went with the intelligence side of things. Maybe more games should go with the intelligence category, because if you're developing, you got to choose. And the AI in Arkham, also, they will respond to the environment as well. Like, say you do a takedown from a grate. They're going to be like, oh, he took him down from the grate. Let's go ahead and put some thermobaric charge in there. They do something, whatever it is. That's something that's designed in an encounter. The developers have made sure that that area is all responsive to you, the AI, and the environment. It's not necessarily like Gotham Knights where the enemies are going to spawn again in this little warehouse. And so we put them in there as a patrol, whatever, so we can basically make a functional game. You got to pick and choose. The code for Arkham's AI is sitting in Warner Brothers Montreal. So it's not like they could not have adopted it, but their game is a different game. So, I mean, I think people see it as, oh, they just don't know how to make a game in Montreal. But actually, they had to pick and choose. And I said the heart monitors, which is something in the Arkham games, straight genius move by Rocksteady to the designers to make that stealth kind of dynamic. So the bosses, even if it was their goons, they'll call you out. They'll make it seem like they're intelligent. So basically, in a design perspective, all it is a counter. When you have so many enemy types that are available, there's a counter that counts down after you take one down. That counter would then trigger for the boss to call to all the enemy AI to change their behavior in terms of a look for. So they program all of these set of codes where enemy NPCs now are a heightened, awareness, and they start looking for you. That's basically what that is. Anyone can do something like that, but again, you got to pick and choose. And I said Arkham's stealth mechanic is much better. But the thing is, I'm not arguing that in my video but I thought I'd make a specific different video for you to be able to just go ahead and talk about it. Every game, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, is a product of the developers that you have and their game. You see, when people say that Gotham Knights is a step down, I have to ask them and say, did you not see Suicide Squad kill the Justice League? Did you not see what the community of gamers actually did with that game? You see, people try to always do this thing like, oh, Rocksteady is this and that. But the truth is Rocksteady did not continue to build on their mechanics, nor did they continue to build on the things that you love. So I think many people are taking it out on Warner Bros. Montreal for doing something different. This is definitely, this lack of separation is going to destroy creativity all through. It's going to make a bunch of generic games to continue to go out. What many people want is 21 versions of the Arkham games, like 21 versions of Call of Duty. I mean, maybe they don't know that they want it, but when they take this approach, it's what they're saying. There are aspects of Gotham Knight stealth system that we can look at and say these need improvement. Maybe the developers can come in with these elements. Hey, add music that changes the dynamic as you're taking down bad guys. Add these elements to make it seem like, if there's a counter, maybe you don't have a boss announce anything. Make that just seem like an enemy NPC gets an intuitive thing like, hey man, I don't think something feels right. There are all kinds of fun ways to provide criticisms without having to say things like generic. This is somebody's life's work. I think that's a whole different conversation nonetheless. But, I went ahead and say every game's a product. And, if you think about it, after your games get canceled, your Arkham sequel, your Superman game, and you come up with a concept for an almost live service game, that's what your boss has said you needed to make, and you still were able to get this game as a non-live service game, I think that's the miracle here. Rome was not built in a day. You want Arkham Knight level quality from a team that barely got their first game out the door. I mean, are you kidding me? It's very interesting. I made a very interesting comparison. I said I'll sooner have a 9-year-old learn nuclear physics than Warner Bros. Montreal bringing out a game that fits and meets all of these detailed qualities of, say, the Arkham game. This is why you said it feels like a step down, because you're playing a game from a developer that has barely ever made their own video game and have had to live in the shadow of Rocksteady and still are living in the shadow of Rocksteady. It's like they never got away from it. So a lot of these concerns and a lot of these complaints, they will come down to this. The game is not like Arkham, and so it doesn't feel as good to me. Perhaps that's your own personal opinion. That's how you felt when you played the game. That's how you and many others, according to you, felt when you played the game. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like the mechanics are something that are just not good or, they're just not the mechanics that you want. And it's perfectly fine to say that. But from a functional standpoint, that's where I look at the game. I look at all these things. I look at all these elements, and I'm like, yeah, the Arkham stealth mechanics are actually better than, Gotham Knights. They're better than almost every other game out there. But the people who made those stealth mechanics are making you Suicide Squad kill the Justice League. So I don't know what to actually say in that regard. Like, why are you holding, or I would ask and say, why are you holding Warner Brothers Montreal responsible to Rocksteady's own design paradigm, where Rocksteady has made a whole different game that now we're debating, and no one is anywhere to be found in that conversation for the most part. Instead, the energy continues to go against what Warner Brothers Montreal did. It's a logical inconsistency. I can't find where to put it, so I keep making these videos so I can get to the bottom of it. And again, it comes down to preference. Not saying that one is better, but for many to say, oh, it just feels like this or like that, or like whatever it is, that's fine. But again, go meet Rocksteady and tell them, hey, why didn't you make this game? Peace out.